All right, everybody. This is That's Just Bull, episode 8. I am with you're gonna say at the end of this, if you don't know he's already pretty good, you're gonna find out he is. Three-time All-Star, former Cy Young Award winner, Chicago White Sox, Jack McDowell. Blackjack, thanks for joining us.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, I'm pumped. I think I'm more pumped than you. So I knew, and I'm going to share what accomplishments you were. And for some people, I get to have a little bit more of an inside scoop being a former player myself. Of course, I was a 7-year, minor leaguer. But it's funny because the year you won the Cy Young 1993, the Mets just converted me from a third baseman to pitch. And I had never cared about pitching before that. And it was funny, in the minors, you didn't spend much time in the minors, but the times that you did there, you'd go home, you'd eat, and when you're on the road, you'd watch Sports Center. It seemed like every time we turned on, I was watching you pitch, and I'll start. My first question is it possible that you can even throw anything straight?
Well, now I can. I mean, now that I've geared down to BP guy the last 20 years. So come on, yeah. I'm doing is throwing BP. And actually, during this lockdown, playing catch with my 11-year-old who can't play Little League right now, I'm actually having to stretch it out farther than 30 feet. And I'm like, oh my God, my arm is actually getting pretty good now.
Yeah. So do you still feel pretty good, your arm? I mean, can you, not that you go back and pitch, but you can still throw it a little bit? No.
Oh,
no
yeah, I can throw BP all day long. I'm pretty good. Everything's still pretty good.
Good. So let's go back. I'm going to go back before we get into, what you did in the big leagues. You grew up in California, right?
Yeah.
You went there. You were so you played Little League and all that stuff?
Did T-ball, Little League, Pony League, 13 and 14, and then went to high school.
So when you were in Little League, did you play any other sports? Or was it always just baseball?
No, we kind of did it all. I mean, I was back in the age where we did it all. I mean, yeah. We did Gray Y at the YMCA, which means we did baseball, softball, soccer, flag football. We did every sport back then. And then came high school, and I was basically what everybody was back in my day. You played all three. You played football, basketball, baseball.
Were you good at basketball? You're 6'5", right?
Yeah, I was pretty solid. I mean, I was, recruited by some colleges for basketball, but then once they started that and then learned that where I was at baseball, they kind of were like, okay, we know where that's going. I actually got recruited for football. I was a quarterback also. So it's, it was fun back then.
Yeah. We played seasonal ball then, right? Football season, you played football. Basketball, you played basketball. Yeah. So obviously you're a good athlete. It's
interesting because we're trying this whole thing. We're trying to find out where all the injuries are coming now. It's crazy. And what they've done is, decrease pitch counts, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But the injuries are still increasing. So it's not that, I bet back when I pitched, you pitched 250 innings, you were a guy. Now it's if you pitch 200 innings, you're like, oh my God, he better rest. And I'm still trying to figure out why are all the injuries now compared to them. And they're saying because it's year round. But the whole thing is, you know what? Yeah, we played our high school season, but we also played Legion ball during the summer. I guess we didn't play fall, but I look at it now and I go, yeah, also during the summer, I was throwing the football, playing 7-on-7, summer league, and then throwing the football the entire fall and winter, and then showing up and throwing baseball. It's like, I don't get it.
Yeah. I've coached some youth sports, and, we'll have a young kid, and the parent, he'll come over and, hey, coach, he's at 65 pitches. And I'm thinking, today's not going to be the day if he throws 65 or 80 that's going to blow him out.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing that cracks me up about pitch counts, and I've said this for years and years, it makes me laugh. And whenever I say this, people go, oh, God, yeah, I never really thought about that. The realistic things about pitch counts. Let's start number one. let's say Pedro Martinez is pitching against Roger Clemens, okay? And both of them go out on the field to warm up before the game. One of them starts playing catch with his catcher. The other one starts playing catch with his catcher. And one throws, 15 balls to his catcher, and then they go jump on the mound and start to get loose. The other one throws 15 pitches to his catcher, and then they start doing long toss. And they long toss for 10 minutes. And then they go on, and before the game, one throws 30 pitches warming up, and the other one throws 55 pitches warming up. How come when they both get to 100, it's even? It's a bunch of baloney. It is not true. Pitch count is the most unscientific thing that has been thrown down everybody's throats in a long time.
And I agree with you. I know a lot of people won't, but we see it all the time. They'll debate these things. I agree with you completely. This year, I live in Houston, and so I was watching a lot of Astros games, and I've watched Verlander. His pregame he's a machine, and I've never heard him complain of arm trouble. He has to throw 100 plus balls before the game starts.
Yeah. See, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, he goes through a long regimen. Yeah, he's got a long regimen, the long toss. He's in the bullpen. It feels like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And
he's like in the fourth inning before he even starts the game.
Yeah. He's got a full lather going.
See, okay. My pregame regimen, and I tell people this all the time, and they look at me like I'm crazy, but this is what I used to do. I would, kind of loosen up my arm, maybe get a rub down from the trainer to get the blood flowing. And then once I would walk out into the field, I wouldn't play catch on the field. I walked out to the mound. Right. I walked out to the bullpen mound, threw 5 or 6 balls with the catcher standing up to get loose. And then the catcher sat down in his stance, and we threw. And I threw I think my routine was about 45 to 55 pitches. But, no one warms up on the mound with that many pitches anymore. And I'm like going, yeah, but I didn't throw long toss for this. I threw on the mound because that's how you get loose. Yeah. You don't get loose in real baseball sense throwing long toss because it's not the same angle. And the way I learned that was the first shoulder surgery that I had. I was able to long toss on flat ground like it was nothing. And the first pitch that I threw when I got on the mound there was so much pain. I thought, I'm never going to pitch again. Oh my God. And I learned right then, you know what, this angle and going on the mound, put your arm in a different position than throwing flat ground. So you're really not getting loose long tossing, and you're not really getting loose playing catch a lot. You're getting loose on the mound for pitching.
Yeah, that's interesting. I see guys, young guys, they'll when they warm up on the mound, they get, 20 feet in front of the mound. I'll be like, man, get on the rubber, warm up from there, start slow and feel it. But man, even when I moved to as a reliever, I was a starter at first, and they moved me to the bullpen. And man, I'm not kidding you when I tell you it would take me 7 pitches, 8 pitches. I was ready to go. I mean, yeah. I needed that first crack, make sure nothing was going to explode on the first few. And by the 8th pitch, man, I was ready to get in there if needed. It didn't take me long.
One of the craziest things that drives me crazy right now coaching is all these kids, from little league all the way up through college. They start playing catch at like 10 feet away from each other. And I'm like, you know what, guys, start at 90 feet and just, what, if you can't grab a ball and throw it 90 feet on the first throw, you're killing yourself. Let's go. And they start throwing, and I'm like, how long does it take you to warm up to be able to take a ground ball and throw? If you're on the bench and had to go in for a guy who got injured, would you have to sit there for 30 minutes to get ready? No, you get ready. You throw the ball. Get it 90 feet and throw the ball.
Do you remember there was a guy, do you remember Chuck Hiller? You ever remember that name, Chuck Hiller?
I do remember the name, yes.
So he's an old timer, respectfully, I'm saying that he was with the Mets when I was there, and as a third baseman, he was an infield roving instructor. And somebody was on a knee throwing. You know, when you warm up, they get on one knee.
Yeah.
He goes, if you ever have to make a play on a consistent basis from one knee, we'll start warming up that way. Until then,
Exactly.
you stand up and you throw the ball, man. And that stuck with me.
Yeah.
So you're a good athlete as a kid. Was there a time that you said, man, this baseball stuff's going to work out? Did you know?
Well, it was, people, when I start thinking about that, and people ask me like, when did you know you were going to be a player, and how did you know all that? It was one of those things where you just played sports, and you just kept going.
Right.
Once I was in high school, and then all of a sudden pro scouts started showing up to my games, and then I actually was drafted out of high school. You're like, okay, then this is probably the direction I'm going to go. And I decided to go to school, went to Stanford, and you kind of knew that was going to happen. But when I realized that I had a chance to play in the big leagues was in college, because by the time when I was a freshman and by the time I was a junior and drafted, I had already pitched against probably 12 to 15 guys that were in the big leagues by then.
Yeah.
It's just, that's the way it worked. I mean, if you're a college stud back then, you started in double AAA and you moved up. I mean, I was pitching against, Barry Bonds and, Will Clark, Rafael Palmeiro, all those guys. That was the same time. Pete Incaviglia, Robert Ventura. Those were all the guys that you pitched against. And all those guys weren't in the big leagues by the time my junior year came. But there were a lot of guys. I mean, we had, Jeff Ballard, who was our pitcher at Stanford, a senior when I was a freshman. He was in the big leagues by the time I was drafted. Pete Stanisic was our second baseman. He was in the big leagues by the time I was drafted. There were just guys that were flying through there. I was like, okay, well, man, I was just playing with those guys. I think I got a shot to do that.
Yeah. Well, you went to Notre Dame High School, and there's some guys, Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, there's some players who came out of this high school.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's the funny thing about our high school. Our high school's kind of been like one per generation. You had Greg Goosen, Tim Foley. I came out of there. Giancarlo Stanton came out of there, and we're still throwing to Hunter Green. Hunter Green's another one.
A couple years ago, right?
Get healthy and be able to progress.
Yeah. The guys that don't know Tim Foley, I mean, he was the first round pick in '68. He was the first pick in the nation, and went on as a middle infielder. He was very good. And of course, everybody knows Giancarlo Stanton at this point, unless you don't watch baseball at all. So then you get drafted in the 20th round by the Red Sox out of high school. And so I'm assuming you had, before you signed with Stanford, you have a lot of offers on the table, a lot of colleges coming after you?
Well, it was, I mean, basically I was going to be a Pac-10 guy. It was Pac-10 back then. It was between there, to tell you the truth, between there, Arizona State, and Arizona at the time. I mean, I had a bunch of offers. I could have gone to Hawaii and been a two-way guy. I actually went up to Stanford as a two-way guy. They said, you can come up, you can, play shortstop and pitch. And I went up and, first year that disappeared. And once I was in the weekend rotation, that was gone. The whole thing was, okay, I got drafted in the 20th round. If you look back then, if you were going to Stanford back then, nobody signed. You went to school. Yeah. And so that's why I didn't get drafted higher.
I see.
At that point, they were like, okay, we'll just throw this out there and see. But then I went out that summer and played on the USA team and had probably the greatest run of my life that summer on that USA team, on the Junior Olympics and all that.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, when I get back home, Boston's going to up this offer and I might have to sign, but they didn't up the offer.
Wow.
And so, I probably would have signed if they'd up the offer a little bit. And it's funny because back then, up in the offer was from $80,000
Yeah.
to, if they were to gone to 100,000, I might have gone.
Yeah, that's right.
And if they would go back now and go, oh my God, that was stupid.
100,000 back then, it might as well have been $1 million, right? In the way you
Yeah,
thought
now it's like, yeah, $12 million, you know. Like back then, back then it was like going, okay, you're 80,000. If we up it to 100 now, we can't do that.
Can't do it, too much. So one of the things, by the way, man, I think most people know this, but Stanford, now, that's no joke. I will tell you that the second letter I ever got as a high school kid, I got it from Stanford. And I realized my first one, oddly, was Duke. Had no idea. You know, I was a young, you know, probably a.
So you were a smart guy then.
No, I don't know what they were thinking. And so that's what I was going to ask you. Are you a smart guy, or did you have them fooled?
Okay. Well, I don't know. Let's go look at that because, you know, they had me come in. They had a bunch of us come in. You know, Eddie Sprague. They had a bunch of. We had a bunch of two-way football, baseball guys that played in the NFL. Toy Cook, Walt Harris. I mean, there was Mark Mactoff, who's coaching at Gonzaga right now, was a football player also. We had, you know, two sport guys going on. But we look back and you go, okay, yeah, Stanford, we won back-to-back titles when I was there, my junior year. And then the next year, when Mike Messina was a freshman, they won the next year. And they haven't won since. So I think maybe they let in some of the dumb guys. But I look back at my classes, and I got in there, and once I got into the classes and you got out of like Econ 1 of 300 kids and you got into like little classes of 15 people, it was great getting in there and being able to talk to people because I, you know, could get after it with them.
Yeah.
You know, I think I was okay.
Okay.
You know, I didn't have the crazy grades that you need now. And the interesting thing is, Dean Stotts, who's no longer there, he was there for years and years and years, was telling me that they, you know, every time they changed the, you know, admissions officer, it changed who could get in there. And so it's like one year he said they had Strasburg and Mike Leake as their top two recruits.
Yeah.
Both of them were 4.0s and great numbers and this and that, and neither of them got in. And I'm like going, okay, so that's way different than when I was there.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, you look at the those schools, and these were all, Duke maybe not as much. They are recently, but back in Stanford and Rice, I mean, these are the schools, if you're not going to have an Ivy League school, these are the academic schools you'd want to attend. A lot of very successful people take their academia there and crush it. So I'll just check it, man, if the IQ was really there, or did you trick them?
Well, I mean, I was a solid student, and I was okay. You know, I got through it.
Yeah.
Hey, okay. Well, let's put it this way. After my junior year at Stanford, I was a quarter ahead.
Oh, so you were smart. You are smart.
I crushed it. Yeah. I am a work ethic guy. That's what I do. I'm going to work my butt off, and that hopefully gets me where I'm going. And so I was a quarter ahead, and that's why I ended up finishing, because I was like, okay, I just have two. It was a trimester school, so I only had 2 years to do it. So my first 2 off seasons, I went there and finished up.
Well, man, so your freshman year, I think you were co-freshman of the year. Did I see that?
Yeah.
So that's NCAA co-freshman of the year.
Yes.
So you came in kicking it, and then you were All-American as a sophomore, you're All-American as a junior. You guys get to the College World Series, an exciting one, by the way, and by the way, some people don't know, I know in 98, they changed the format. 87, I think, was the last year where it was truly double elimination all the way through.
Yeah.
And so you guys get there, and you lose the game around the mid-rounds to Oklahoma State, and you end up winning it, but not without maybe one of the greatest one of the greatest college games, and the comeback over LSU.
Oh yeah, walk-off grand slam.
Walk-off grand slam, 10th inning off Ben McDonald of all people.
Yep.
And for people who don't know Ben McDonald, he was real as well. I mean, he could 60 feet 6 inches looked like it was too short for him. I mean, he was getting there pretty quick.
That was his freshman year. He just we kind of got lucky there. Just things worked out for us.
Yeah. So then you get back, you get a revenge game in the championship game against Oklahoma State. You throw it, and you're winning. You're an NCAA champion. At this point, I don't think anybody's surprised. So did you know that? Did you believe, or did you know? I mean, was there enough attention to you, enough guys giving you feedback that you were going to be a first-round pick?
Yeah. At that point, I knew that I was going to be probably top 10 because all those teams were talking to me. So you're kind of figuring it out,
Yeah.
So where I wanted. I really wanted to go with the Dodgers because I was an LA guy, and the Dodgers had the 7th pick.
So, but you didn't make it. You got to the 5th pick, and then
I got to the 5th pick. And the funny thing is, all the Cub fans, that go after you, I'm like, hey, guess what? The Cubs picked number 4 that year. They picked Mike Harkey from Fullerton, and I was number 5. So I'm like, Cubs fans, you can't yell at me. It wasn't my fault.
That's right.
You have no choice where you're going to play ever. They throw you around where you're going to go.
It's a big deal. I don't think a lot of people realize there's a lot of pressure on these teams in the first round because you don't want to miss, right? You want to pick a guy that they're going to make some money off of, right? It's a business, and they want to make sure this guy is a guy that's going to get in the big leagues and is going to win. And I looked, there were 4 guys really in that whole draft. Of course, the first pick being Griffey Jr. That turned out to be a good pick. And you did too. And so when we go there, I started looking at you. So you spent 6 games in the minors. And this is where I'm curious to hear. It reminds me of a guy, I guess maybe, I don't know if he was in the big leagues yet, but he ended up being with the Reds, Paul Wilson. Did you know Paul Wilson?
No.
I think in 90, maybe 94, 95, the Mets' first pick in the draft was Paul Wilson out of Florida State.
I gotcha. Yes.
And he ended up going, I think he was kind of the opening day guy for Cincinnati for a few years. I don't think he quite had, he made the big leagues and he was a really good pitcher. I don't think, he quite had the career that he was hoping for, but he was good. He was real good. He was a great guy, good teammate. When he came, we were in high A ball, I think. He came right to high A ball. And his first 4 games, man, he couldn't miss a bat. Everything he threw was just doubles into gaps. And we're all kind of thinking, you could see that he had the stuff, right? He had first round stuff, but they were putting it on him. And all of a sudden, around the 5th or 6th game, you found out what they drafted. And were you similar to that in the minors? Because I know you didn't have typical numbers in your first 6 games in the minors. I think they put you in rookie ball. It looked like you were way too much for that. They sent you to AA, and then the numbers weren't great at AA, right?
Yeah, it weren't crazy. The whole thing that whole time is I wasn't sure whether I was going to sign with the White Sox, and so I didn't sign till August 1st, which was about the date when you have to decide whether you're going back to college or not. I kind of wanted to go back to Stanford. I knew we had a chance to win it again, which they did. And I kind of wanted to go back to play on the Olympic team in '88. Yeah. And I look back now and I go, it would have been really cool to win a gold medal, Yeah, I knew we had some dudes and, that would have been fun to do. So I waited, and then signed. And so August 1st, stuff's going on, this and that. They threw me down to rookie ball just to get, basically to see if I was ready to go or not, or whether I had been throwing it home or not. And when they figured that out, that I had been working out and been doing my deal, that then they sent me to Double A, and I did. I had a couple bad starts, couple good starts, and that was that.
I was looking at it today. You do 4 starts in Double A, and I guess it's September. They say, hey, we're going to pull him up, and we're going to throw him. And you go up and
Well, they weren't going to throw me. It was just going to be a call up. That was actually, the truth of that whole thing is part of the signing bonus when I was signed was, okay, we're not going to give you the bonus to equal Griffey's, but what we'll do is we'll give you a September call up. And so you'll earn an extra however many, $30,000 for that month to be able to do it. And I was like, okay, well, all right, we'll do that then. Yeah. And the interesting part was the week before I was supposed to be called up, Richard Dodson got hurt. And so I didn't even think I was going to play when I got up there. And, they called me up 2 days before I was going to call him and said, okay, you're starting in 2 days against the, Twins, right, who ended up winning the World Series that year.
Yeah. Well, they won the World Series, but you shut them out for 7 innings.
Yeah.
And so that was your major league debut. You throw 7 shutout innings. Did you even have it? I mean, obviously you're a smart guy. You haven't really ever, probably in your career, experienced a tremendous amount of failure. You go there. Do you really know where you're at? I mean, do you know how big this is? Are you aware of it, or are you just kind of like, screw it, I don't care, give me the ball?
I think about that a lot of times when I got called up to the big leagues in those first handful of starts. It was a very strange time when I look back on it, because I was so tunnel visioned of just like lock in. I mean, I had Carlton Fisk back there catch me. I'm lock in, do what he says, throw to his glove. I was so tunnel visioned that during my first start, I was walking off the field and to go down into the dugout, and I kind of walked into the rail. I'm sure that's not, I mean, I'm sure you could find it somewhere. It wasn't like, they talked about it or anything, but I was just like so tunnel vision, I wasn't even paying attention to anything other than pitching. And I like walked into the rail and then had to walk down into the dugout. I'm like, okay, I'm locked in. And I always think about that, man, if I could always be that locked in as I was, because you're never that locked. I was just really locked in to do it.
Well, I mean, every start, I don't know, I think you got 4 starts. You went 3-0. You had like a 1.9 ERA. And so now all of a sudden it looks like you belong in the big leagues. I mean, you're a major league pitcher. What I think I tell people all the time when they talk about pro ball, and it's funny, I give a scenario. I went to an Astros game last year, and I as a former, I watch all the little things, right? I'm looking for signs, and I'm looking for just all the little inches and seconds of things, how they're so successful, because it's a hard game at that level, right? And I remember I was telling I have 2 sons too. I have one that's 23, and my other one's 16. He was at this game, and Josh Reddick, who's a great outfielder for the Astros in right field, there was a ball in the gap, or I'm sorry, ball down the corner. And he, all in one step, he didn't take any extra steps. He pushes the ball down, turns, fires to Correa, who's already around the ball. There was a relay at third. It was executed so beautifully, and it was still just bang, bang. And I'm like, man, I tell people sometimes when they ask, I'm like, man, I don't think you understand. These guys are so freakishly big and strong. You can't afford any kind of mistake at all.
Yeah.
So just
throwing a head high ball to 150, 200 feet on a relay throw, just like
2 guys with such precision, and then it makes me say, you were a 3-time All-Star, but when I want to talk about the year when you won the Cy Young Award, we say, oh, he's a Cy Young Award winner, man. Pitching in the big leagues is these guys, they're constantly making adjustments to beat you. I mean, if you beat them once, it's hard to beat them like that the next time because they're making some sort of adjustment. And I'll tell this story. I was in spring training one time. I was on some backfield. I was around Double A ball, and we were playing the Dodgers, and Eric Karros was he was coming back to get extra swings, right? So he had played his 4 innings up in the main game, and he's coming back. He just wants some more at bats, and so he's leading off every inning, right? Because he wants to get at bats. He's Eric Carroll.
Yeah.
And so I'm facing him, and I know who he is. He doesn't know who I am, and I get him 0-2 right away, you know. And so now I want to bust him in real hard. I want to move him, and I just went in a little too tight, and I hit him. And so he decides not to take his base. He wants to hit. He wants to get. So he tells the umpire.
You should have drilled him again and said, "Hey, I'm telling you what to do. Get the hell down there."
Hey, I don't think I didn't feel like doing that.
Yeah.
But I didn't do that. I thought, well, I'll go get him and I'll strike him out. And instead, he took me deep. And so to add insult to injury.
What pitch did you throw him?
To him?
Yeah, after you hit him, what pitch did you throw him, man? You had him set up. What'd you throw?
Well, I know he hit a fastball out. And by the way, I had applied. I don't know if your 4-seamer moved or not. I mean, did you ever throw a 4-seamer? It didn't seem like it.
You know what? I would have to show you my grip. After, I ended up having like an in-between grip on my fastball.
Do you have a ball there?
It wasn't a pure 2-seamer, but it was kind of in between, so it kind of had a little bit of movement all the time.
Do you have a ball close to you? You got to have one somewhere.
Probably somewhere in here. Yeah, hold on one second. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. Jack McDowell's going to show us how he threw his fastball. Wish he'd have showed me that years ago.
Okay, here we go.
I just said as you walked away, I said, I wish you'd have shown me this years ago.
Yeah, but this is all just like, you can't teach stuff like this. It's all about feel.
Yeah.
Where you go. One weird thing that I'm finding now with a lot of younger pitchers is, and I'm going to ask you, when you threw your fastball, were your fingers wide or were they together?
So I had kind of an arm slot here.
Yeah.
I didn't get up on top. And I felt like I lost some of my velocity. When I was a third baseman, I felt like I threw way harder than when I pitched. I didn't feel like it translated from third base to pitcher. I threw very hard from across the diamond, and I don't feel like I threw as hard on the mound. So I was really counting on more movement. And so I would always have my fingers together on the 2-seam.
Together. I know. I was always together. And nowadays, all these kids come in and their fingers are spread on their fastball. I'm like going, you are slowing down your movement and velocity. Together, to me, gets the ball out of your hand quicker with not as much fingers slowing it down and all that. But okay, so your normal 4-seamer is here. Mm-hmm. Your normal 2-seamer is here. Yeah. I used to throw kind of in between. So you had this here. I would put my forefinger on like the circle C and do that. And so my was kind of in between a 2-seamer. That was just what was comfortable for me. And that was the fastball that I threw.
Do you remember? I don't remember. Now everybody has a cutter. I don't remember the cutter being as prevalent.
Well, a cutter back then was a slider.
Yeah.
Like, it's nothing different. It wasn't like anything crazy, but it was a slider.
Yeah. And so what was your repertoire? You had you were the fastball, slider, forkball, right?
No, I was a fastball split guy.
Fastball split. So you didn't mess with many sliders, right?
No, I was a fastball split, 12-6 curve guy. I had a mediocre curve I could throw for a strike, but with my fastball split repertoire, when they'd see the curveball, they'd see it come out of my hand and boom, it was up. So it'd say, oh, split up, I'm going to take it. And it would be a strike.
Yeah.
Well, and so that is how I would only throw it maybe 10 to 12 times a game, the curveball.
Yeah.
But that's what made it effective is it was different than everything else. The split, the split finger, I started throwing sophomore high school. I started messing with it mostly because I was an infielder. And so I was a short arm guy. So you're a short armor. It's hard to throw a breaking ball short armed.
That's right.
You know, as you probably know, as an infielder transitioning. And so I was like, I never had a good curveball. So my brother, who was coaching me during high school, you know, in the early 80s is when that started being the big pitch, you know, with Suter and Morris and all that. It's like, hey, let's start throwing the split finger, see if you can do this. And I started throwing it, and I was getting like knuckleball, you know, good everything out of there, good top spin on it. And that ended up being my pitch. And it wasn't one of those split fingers that was a big strikeout pitch. It was just a pitch that I could move. If I just angled my arm a little bit, I could move it away from a right-hander, away from a left-hander, just mess around with it, throw it for a strike, throw it not for a strike, this and that. That's why I never struck out 200 guys in my career. Threw a ton of innings, never had a 200 strikeout. You know, I was just a, you know, get it off the barrel guy.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, you never looked like you were a guy that you weren't trying to go, you know, like in today's game, we see strikeout, and you were hit your pitch guy. Let them hit your pitch. And,
yeah,
you know,
keep them off balance, keep it off the barrel. And you know what? And that shouldn't have disappeared from the game, but it has.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at it, would Jamie Moyer even get a shot at professional baseball right now?
It's crazy.
If he threw for somebody on the side, it's like, come on, guys. You know what? The art of pitching's being taken away.
I told a story one time in the minors facing Andy Pettit, and I didn't know that he was going to go on and be the Andy Pettit that we know today. He was in the minors, right? And so, but I remember, you know, you knew who the prospects were, and we knew the Yankees liked him, and I was facing him as a third baseman, and somebody asked me, "Hey, how was Pettit?" And I'm like, nothing, you know, overpowering. You know, I could see his pitches well, and well, how'd you do against him? Well, I was 0 for 4, but
yeah.
You know, I mean,
move that ball around, cut that fastball in on your hands. You're like,
yeah, you'd see it all, but you couldn't hit anything hard off of it. You know? And so that split finger, I didn't see many guys who had split fingers like yours. People didn't throw them as prevalent. And speaking of that, you said your sophomore year, '86. I know that I think it was Roger Craig with the Giants, right? He was really supporting, or he kind of made that thing popular, didn't he?
Oh yeah. No, I'm talking sophomore year high school.
Oh, of high school. So even before
82.
Then. Okay. So you started throwing it then and just had a feel for it, huh?
Yeah, and just kept, and just, you know, the minute it's funny because every pitcher that I ever coach, I have them throw it for me, and I can tell within 5 times of them throwing it whether they have a chance to make that a pitch or not.
Yeah. So for people at home, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't throw one, but what makes that so tough is the hand. It's the same release spot. I mean, there's no turning as the fastball. So it comes out of the hand looking like a fastball. You commit to it, and you realize it's only going to go 58 feet before it hits the ground, and you're committed.
And it's never going to be the same movement.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you know, a guy's slider, once you've seen it, you kind of know where it's going to be. So now you know if it starts 6 inches slower, it's going to be lower. It's going to be a ball. If it starts high, it's going to be this and that. Splits, they do all kinds of different things. Why that has disappeared from the game, I think a bunch of hitters got together and went in and said, you know what, this is really dangerous for your pitcher's arms. You shouldn't do it anymore. And I look back and people say, oh yeah, the split finger hurts your elbow. It does this and that. I'm looking back going, you know what? Back when I pitched, the guys that threw the most innings were fastball split guys. You know, me, Jack Morris, Charlie, Chuck Finley. I mean, it's just like fastball split guys are the guys who just, you know, we didn't get hurt throwing that.
I think Kurt Schilling threw one as well, doesn't he?
Oh yeah. And Clemens didn't throw
Yeah.
it from the beginning, but probably like his 5th year into the big leagues, he started messing with it when he got to Toronto, and look what happened there.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
know.
back-to-back Cy Youngs there, and then like
Yep.
another 2 others after that.
The only time I ever remember facing one, there was one guy, I have no idea who his name was, but he had a good one, and he didn't throw it enough because he threw one to me. I swung it. It went 59 feet. I missed it by a foot. And I thought to myself, my God, if he throws 2 more of those, I don't know how I'm going to lay off of it, and I'm not going to hit it. I mean, and he didn't come back with it ever, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
I was like,
See, mine wasn't like that. Mine actually was more like a pork ball.
okay.
You know, the guys that do the splits, like, you know, Brian Harvey back in my day, and Morris, where they used to throw it and bounce it, or, you know, and guys used to swing and miss at it. That wasn't my deal. I used to throw it in the strike zone and have it move through the strike zone.
Okay.
And so it wasn't like, mine was more of a fork ball than a split finger fastball.
Yeah.
And so that was probably the difference that I had with it.
So you wanted to get it a piece. You wanted to get a piece of the barrel, just not the fat piece.
Yeah, I was trying to throw strikes. I
Yeah.
didn't like wasting pitches. Like,
Yeah.
if I was 0-2, I mean, I still try to teach now. You know what? If you're like, what's the best 0-2 pitch? And my answer is a strike.
Yeah. Right.
It's 0-2. You have the hitter in the biggest hole that he's going to be in. Why would you waste a pitch shoulder high, a foot outside, this and that, when he is in the biggest hole that he's in? Make him make a pass at something he doesn't know what's happening. He's 0-2. He doesn't know what's coming. Fastball, slider, curveball, you know, and now you make them go after it in their biggest hole.
Right.
You know, but this whole thing of, you know, way back when, where, oh, if you give up an 0-2 hit, you got to run 3 poles for me. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you bury people 0-2, go after them.
The Mets would fine us if we
Yeah.
gave up an 0-2 hit.
Oh yeah, that's
Big
how
money.
everyone went. I disagree with that. I think you should bury people 0-2.
Yeah, but they also they were heavy advocates of getting people out in 3 pitches or less. But if you give up an 0-2 hit, you get fined. I'm like, man, that's. I mean, which do you want? All right. I don't know which one you want me to do.
Yeah, it's like if you get if you go 0-2, that's a bad deal. Now don't mess up.
Right.
We want you to get them out early by swinging at pitches early. But if you go 0-2, then you got to strike them out. You know, that's ridiculous.
It's crazy. You win the Cy Young Award, and it wasn't close, by the way. I don't know if you knew that, but so in '92 you win 20 games. You're really on the map as one of the greatest in the game. In '93 you win 22 games. You win the Cy Young Award. Over the next guy was Randy Johnson. So anybody that's, my God, he's great, right? And
well, Randy Johnson, who had 300 strikeouts that year.
300. Wow.
Yes. Yeah, it was crazy.
And so the voting wasn't close, by the way. I mean, you won it on the American League side, and Greg Maddux won it on the National League side. And, man, if you guys could have ever teamed up as teammates at that time.
Hey, had the Cubs drafted me as a pick before, we would have.
That's exactly right. You would have. Because in '93, he was still with the Cubs, right? He won it with the Cubs there.
Yeah.
He wasn't with the Braves yet. So, man, you won the Cy Young. What does that mean to you? Were you, the personal accolades, was it a big deal? I mean, it's huge, but were you the kind that said, all right, we're on to the next year now? Or did you take some glory in winning that?
I mean, it was, the whole thing, my whole thing in playing was to try to win the World Series, and not winning that, not being able to do that, because the bottom line is, yeah, great. I won the Cy Young, super. But guess what? I lost 10 games that year, and, you could always do better. And it's one of the things I preach all the time. Individual awards are great. You can pat yourself on the back, but every individual award, you can do better than you did that year.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I gave up a hit, I could have had a better year. I could have not given up any hits the whole year.
Right.
first ball that I threw. I could have thrown all strikes the whole year. There's no individual thing that you can do in baseball that you can't improve upon. But the only thing that you can do in baseball that you can't improve upon is winning a championship. Because that is the last thing. Hey, I've accomplished everything I can. There's nothing more that we can accomplish as a team. We did it. And that is the most, and that has always been the way I've thought. So yeah, winning individual awards is great. And, now, way down the road, that had my highest achievement been being an all-star, I would always be called, all-star, Major League Baseball all-star Jack McDowell. But now it's always, Cy Young Award winner Jack McDowell. It's your highest achievement kind of becomes your name for the rest of your life.
That's
people
right.
people don't really say World Series champion
Yeah.
unless that's the only thing you did. Maybe sometimes they do it, but so it's part of the deal. And yeah, I wanted to do that. Definitely. I mean, probably my best year was 1991. I only won 17 games, but there were 5 blown saves that year. So
Wow.
It could have been a crazy year. Then the next year, I was 20-10 and was the best starting pitcher, but Eckersley won the Cy Young along with the MVP that year. So, I got kind of blocked out by that. And then the following year got to win it. So it's one of those where you just kept, kept plugging away, just doing what you do. And, hopefully you do good and keep pushing.
Well, you did good. You did good. I mean, you've heard it before, but people who are watching, I mean, you won the Cy Young Award. However, whatever corrections you could have made, you still were the best in the league. So that's something, man. When you pitched, I'm sure you had a guy that is there a hitter that comes to mind that you said, man, this SOB, I just can't get him out.
Oh, Robbie Alomar was my dude.
Robbie Alomar.
Oh yeah, you go look at the numbers. It's unbelievable. It was like it didn't matter. It didn't matter what needed to be done at that particular at bat. He'd get it done.
Yeah.
Whether it was flare a single to drive a run in or go deep to tie a game up, it was like, my goodness. And he hit I think in like the mid 400s against me. And you're talking about our whole career we played against each other. It's a lot of at bats.
Yeah, same division. So you saw him all the time.
Oh yeah. And then once I got to Cleveland and Sandy, his brother, was behind the plate, I was like, dude, hey, when Toronto came into town, I'm like, hey, listen, I can't get Robbie out, man. You guys, he said, don't worry, I got it. And the first time he gets up, Sandy just calls fastball, 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 fast. I'm like, oh. So I've been trying to trick him for all these years, and he's too smart. So let's just mess with him and throw nothing but fastballs and then just mess with him. When we got him out, and I'm like, okay, I get it. I get what you're trying to say.
Hey, that's a cool story, man. The brotherhood is that thick. You're talking about his brother. And he's like, screw that guy. I'll show you how to get him out. I got his number.
Oh yeah.
No love lost, man. Afterwards, we'll eat together. We'll be brothers, but here I'm going to beat you.
Yeah, then he came and played with him in Cleveland, so there you go. Then they all hung out together.
So you played with the White Sox. You went to the Yankees. You played at Cleveland. One more?
The Angels for a couple crazy years.
Those organizations, when you go from organization to organization, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are. Did you feel it was hard to adapt to a new organization?
Well, the weird part about it is at the big league level, I mean, when you're competing against guys and fighting against guys, and, then all of a sudden you walk in the clubhouse and you're like, I remember walking in the first team that I changed was White Sox or the Yankees. And I remember walking in the clubhouse the first time going, I wonder how many of these guys want to punch me in the face. It's I wonder, this is crazy. I wonder how this is going to go. So that it is different when you go there, because it's guys that you've battled against that probably, you know, a lot of them probably didn't like you because you were competitive or this and that. So yeah, it is difficult. It is difficult to go. I mean, the White Sox, they were my team. They were who we came up with. And, you know, if I was a rookie and went from being a rookie young dude to being one of the leaders in the 7 years there.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, nothing is crazy about it. Then all of a sudden you change your going, okay, what's up now, you know?
So what about, so you, Robbie, you going back to the players, Robbie Alomar had your number. What big name can you think of that the world would know, where you know that you had his number? He was a great hitter, but for some reason you just kind of had him.
If you look at my numbers against Griffey, I did pretty good. Up until that 95 game when he hit that ground ball up the middle to move Joey Cora before the Edgar hit. I threw pretty good again. I threw pretty good against Griff. I don't know why.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't make any sense, but I got him out pretty good.
What about were they doing interleague play then?
We started interleague play, I think, in 90. Was it 4 or 5?
Man,
5, maybe 5 or 6.
Okay.
No, it was 96. 96 is when they started interleague play.
And did you swing the bat pretty good?
I didn't get a single at bat.
Oh wow. Because
I was once they started interleague play, the injury thing, I ended up being on the DL because it wasn't constant interleague. It was like that little 2-week session for those first few years where you played a few teams and then you went back to normal. So I didn't get, but what I can say is, hey, no one ever got me out at the big league level.
That's right. That's right. I'm gonna change gears on you here.
All right.
So some people know this. People who are fans know this, but people who don't know you don't know this. So you are also a musician, a rocker. And
used to be, yeah.
And a real one. I mean, we're not talking. We're talking pretty good stuff here. Your first band, so it's called The View.
Yeah.
And did this stand for something? Because I know it's abbreviated. Or it's
what?
It's V period I period E period.
Yeah, the reason we did that was I named the band The View, and then some other band that was named The View that no one ever heard of, and no one's ever heard of them since, said, hey, we have this band called The View. You know, what are we going to do? One of those things. And so he said, okay, well, we were REM fans. So he said, okay, we'll change the name. We won't, instead of R period, E period, M period, we'll go V period, I period. So that was why we did it. We were REM fans, and so we changed View to View with dots between it.
Yeah, and you actually toured a little bit with the Smithereens.
We did.
That's real.
Yeah, and at the end of that, once I started the new band, Mike Maceros from the Smithereens ended up playing bass with me for 8 years and doing the next 4 stick figure records.
I like the Smithereens a lot. I really like that sound, you know. And did they know who you were when you were doing
Mike
this?
did. Mike Maceros is a big sports fan.
Okay.
And the reason we got to tour with them is because we had just put out the first View record and we started doing stuff, and we actually got to do an acoustic version of one of our songs on the Roy Firestone show. Oh, yeah. And Mike saw that and he was like going, wow, I really like that song. It's super cool. And so he eventually found out who we were working with and asked if we, wanted to come and open up some shows for them. So yeah, that kind of got it rolling for us for sure. So
bigger rush, playing in front of a crowd with music, or standing on the mound playing against the New York Yankees?
Ooh, all a great rush. The difference with music is it's, you know, well, for me, I obviously was a way better baseball player than I was a musician. You know, I'm a solid musician,
Yeah.
solid singer, not
Yeah.
great at either, but I think I'm a very plus songwriter.
Yeah.
I liked the songs that I wrote. I wish would get more attention. People would, you know it. But the fact that I wasn't a super great singer or this and that, it didn't get that much attention. But, you know, that'd be fun for people to come check it out and listen to it and go, oh, okay, that's interesting, you know. But it's crazy being on stage, because in baseball, you're taught to block out the audience. You know, you're playing your game, and you're, you know, pitching to the hitter. You're hitting against the pitcher. You're blocking out the audience. In music, you have to engage the audience. So it is a way bigger deal, and way more, you know, stressful and crazy to have to get in there and do your deal, perform well, but also engage with the audience and have them get into it as well.
I'll tell you where I figured that out. I love music. I love it. And when I tell you, I like all kinds. Me and my wife, we just every concert that comes around, we try to go to them. Now she won't go this far, but you know, back in the day, I would go. You know, I enjoyed Iron Maiden, you know, Ozzy Osbourne, AC/DC, the hard stuff. But I've also gone to see Josh Groban. And I've seen country. You know, I like, you know, any country. I love country music. But Garth Brooks, one time he came to the arena here in Houston, and I've never seen a guy basically have the audience in the palm of his hand.
Yeah.
He would start doing an acoustic set, and I was on the floor. I was about 10, 12 rows up. But I remember looking up at what he was doing to the crowd, and I thought, man, this guy is a king, man. I mean, I can't imagine having that much power, but he had it.
Yeah, well, that's what makes you a stud musician, be able to draw the crew in. Yeah, you want to know a cool story about Garth Brooks is he started out in Oklahoma just playing like little shows and being like just a small bar guy when Robin Ventura was at Oklahoma State, and that's when he first met Garth, when he was just doing like little club shows, little bar shows, and this and that. It's so crazy, and all of a sudden, you know, he becomes a stud.
So did Robin Ventura know him pretty good?
Yeah, Robin knew him from the time, you know, Robin was in college, and he'd met him playing those little shows, and then all of a sudden, you know, yeah, it's huge.
I remember one of my college visits was to Oklahoma State, and when I went there, Steve Wariner, the country singer Steve Wariner, they took me to some bar, and Steve Wariner was there. I don't know why, but he wasn't a big name then either. He's no Garth Brooks, but he did damn good. Before we wrap up here, man, I want to get to some beef. Something came up today, coincidentally, and I talked to you just a little bit. The Red Sox, I don't know if you saw, they were. I saw it. Yeah, they were fine today, and it wasn't as significant as the Astros. They lost a videographer and some draft picks, and so this conversation, or this topic of conversation, gets people pretty riled up. And I heard you say some things. I tend to fall exactly where you fall. Of course, look, me not ever being, you know, an everyday big leaguer. To me, the game, and some people, I've said this to some players, and they seem to get offended by it, and I'm shocked by it. People were looking for an edge, and they cheated all the time. Whether it was doctoring a ball, grooving your bat, you know, so it would grip something, you know, having pine tar wherever you could, you know, get it. I mean, people were always doing things, and it was kind of accepted. I didn't care as a player if a guy was doing something. I didn't. I just thought, I'll beat him anyway, or he'll beat me. But I never thought he'd beat me because he had pine tar on his bat higher, or.
Well, see, there you go. All those things are just little things that can maybe help you a little bit. Knowing what pitch is coming, changes the entire game of baseball.
The
game of baseball is a pitcher versus a hitter, and then a bunch of other stuff that goes around. Okay?
Yeah.
So when you're taking away the pitcher versus hitter matchup, that takes away the entire game of baseball. That's the bummer about it. Okay, well, I'm going to do steroids so I can hit the ball farther. Okay, that's one thing, but I still can get you out, and I still can do this and that. The pine tar too high, or like you said, all those little things, those are fine, but that is not taking away the game of baseball. Mm-hmm. The game of baseball is pitcher versus hitter, and the whole pine tar or, scuffing the ball or this and that. It does certain things and all that. And I guess maybe, I don't know. I didn't do any of that. I couldn't do any of that stuff with the ball because I was a split finger guy. I needed that ball to slip through. So if I got in on a guy and got a little pine tar in the ball, I'd have to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Whereas, there were a lot of guys that their catchers had pine tar on their glove. Catch the ball, boom, boom, throw it back with pine tar on it so you could throw that breaking ball tighter. But I don't know how much that really affects how they pitched or any of this, but it didn't affect, maybe it affected how good their stuff was a little bit, but it still was baseball. My stuff versus you trying to figure out how I'm going to throw it.
Yeah.
So that doesn't bug me as much as knowing what pitch is coming.
Yeah. And so obviously I do agree with the fact that when people say, look, when you're using technology outside of the field, because people can use cameras inside where they're trying to pick up signs and it's part of the game, right? When they're using cameras that are television cameras that are basically zoomed in on the catcher's signs.
Yeah.
Now I do tend to think though, like there are times when, let's say that I was facing you, the game is 6-0, one way or the other. And we're in the sixth inning and it's a 2-0 count. It would be odd to throw an off-speed pitch there, right? A 6-0 game. So in those scenarios, you're getting a fastball and you still may not hit it. I mean, there were times, now people weren't going to mistake me for Frank Thomas and some of these all-stars, like the Astros have. But sometimes you can know what pitch is coming and get it and miss it. How much do you think that plays in?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's not like what's coming and you're still going to crush it because you still got to do what you got to do. There's some guys that'll help a lot, and there's some guys where it'll mess up. And I've seen it before when you have guys that get the signs when they're on second base from the catcher, just give them signs, and they'll take their little step right or turn their head right saying, oh, this is an inside pitch. And guys know it's going to be a fastball inside and they can get there quicker than they normally could. And it's going to help some guys. But a lot of times I've seen, okay, we'll look left and we know a breaking ball's coming. The breaking ball's coming. You see it out of his hand. Here's the breaking ball. Boy, I'm going to go get that. So the pitch ends up being a ball and guys are swinging at it. You're going, man. It's like you didn't take it to the next level. Like, make sure it's a strike. You knew it was coming. You thought I'm going to crush it when I see it, but you didn't narrow it down to make it be a pitch you could crush. So it's not always like every pitch that's coming, you're going to crush.
Right. Yeah. The one area that I will concede, and I was, being in Houston, following the Astros, watching them win the World Series in 2017, I will say something that I think that technology, I don't think it helped them as much on hitting the ball. I think it really helped them on knowing when to lay off certain pitches.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the part where I could really see the advantage, because if you look at 16, I think they may have they were top 2 or 3 in baseball in strikeouts. And in 17, man, you couldn't get them to get out of the zone for anything.
Well, when you saw the Kershaw thing they broke down, that was the funny one. where
Oh,
not
man.
one of his curveballs or sliders, it's like, okay. And so
Yeah, like-
they obviously knew every single thing was coming because people don't hit his slider and curveball. They don't.
He threw like 50 curveballs, and I think somebody said they swung and missed at one.
Yeah, it was like they just spit on them all.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
man.
is a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's no average curveball, man.
Yeah. Yeah, he's funky the way he does everything.
So you all the years you played, when we talk about teammates, having a good teammate, is there somebody that stuck out in your mind that said, man, this was one of my best teammates? Just a guy that you valued having the same uniform with him.
I love Rob Ventura. He's one of my favorite guys ever. And just my 1 year with the Yankees,
Mm-hmm.
Wade Boggs, Don Mattingly, David Cohn, loved them. They were all guys that were just dudes.
Yeah, good guys. So, do you still talk to Robin Ventura frequently, or do you?
I hadn't talked to him for a while, but I actually I gave him a shout out when I heard that he was doing the Oklahoma State thing, where
Okay.
he was going back to be a student coach. He was finishing up school this year.
I'll be damned. Good for him.
I'm like, so you looks like you want to be a head college coach. What program are we going to take over, man? Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, he draws some names at Oklahoma State, that's for sure. He was.
Yeah.
I'll tell you real quick. My dream as a kid, I wanted to go to Oklahoma State, and when I got the letter to go there, I said, "It's over. This is where I'm going." And I got up there to Stillwater, and I thought, I hate this place. There's no way I can go here.
Well, I mean, Stillwater's so weird because you're driving and there's nothing around for like an hour, right?
That's right.
Driving
That's
on
right.
the street and you're like, oh, wait a minute, where are we? We're in the middle of nowhere, and then boom, you hit this little town.
That's right.
It's very different little
It is
place.
a different place. Hey, you've had to ask him at one point. You guys have had to have the conversation about him and Nolan Ryan. Does he have any regrets? Would he have done anything differently on him charging Nolan Ryan?
Well, you know, I've never talked to him about it, but I know the deal. I mean, if you just look at it and know the whole thing, here was the whole deal. They had talked about, they had Robin stole second in the 7th inning, the night before, when we were up by like 6 runs. And they just like freaked out about that. Why are you running up by 6 runs, this and that? Well, if you look at that year, during that whole year, they came back and beat us 3 times when we were down by 7 runs. So them saying that is so stupid. But anyway, one of the ones who talked about it was Nolan. And then the next day it came out that Nolan was like saying that was ridiculous that Ventura did that and blah, blah, blah. And so Robin knew he was going to get drilled the next day. And so Robin was like, if I get drilled, I'm going to charge your mound. But the whole thing was, looking back on it, his whole thing wasn't, if I get drilled, I'm going to go out there and beat the hell out of Nolan. It was, I'm going to charge the mound.
Yeah.
And what did he do? He charged the mound, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then he went, okay, now what?
Yeah.
That's exactly how it went down. He didn't try to tackle him. He didn't try to punch him. He charged him out just to try to prove it and then go, crap, I didn't prepare for this part of it.
That's right. Everybody, of course, they see it, there was a little hesitation. Then he said, you know what, hell with it, I'm doing it. And he runs out there. But it reminds me, I don't know if you know this story, Nolan Ryan tells a story very similar to that story, where the roles were reversed. Have you ever heard this?
No, well, on what?
He hit Dave Winfield one time.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave Winfield charged him. That's a load, man.
Yeah, you're going to run to center field on that one.
Yeah. Dave Winfield charges him, and Nolan Ryan says, I kind of stood there, and he didn't say like Robin, but like Robin did. Robin got out there, he stopped, and then he just kind of let Nolan kind of take charge of it, right?
Yeah.
Well, he did that against Winfield. Of course, Winfield just crushes him, takes him off his feet, and he's on top of him, and he's giving him a pretty good beating. And he said, that had never happened to me. And so if the day ever comes again, if I ever get charged, I'm going to make sure the glove's out of my hand, and I'm going to do something. And sure enough, if you watch that, I mean, he throws the glove to the side, and then I think if Robin would have gone low on him, he'd have had a better shot. But he got there and
Yeah,
stopped.
I mean, Robin didn't even go after him. He just kind of like went in there to give him a hug almost, if you look at it.
That's right. It'd be interesting to hear Robin's view of it now today, you know, all these years later. He'd probably say the same thing you're saying.
Oh, yeah, because he's still seeing the pictures all the time, you know.
Oh, man.
They still have it on social media all the time. Oh, Robin Ventura getting beat up. I know he ain't getting beat up. He got,
That's right.
you know.
Yeah, if you go back and look at it, he really didn't get beat up. I mean,
no, he just got
the
like
whole
you
thing
said,
got
he got
taken
a
to the
little
ground
nuggy on
pretty
the head.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, man, I can't thank you enough for doing this. This is obviously a thrill for me, and more than you know. So I appreciate you giving me your time, and I'm grateful. Thank you.
All right. It's always fun talking about stuff and, you know, talking about the game. Love it.
Awesome. Last thing, everybody's safe on this whole coronavirus stuff. I was going to ask you that earlier.
We're doing all right. We're homeschooling our 3 little ones and waiting for the darn Little League season to start if we can do it. Come on, man. My 11-year-old's missing his season.
Yeah, that's a big deal for him, isn't it? He's going crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, my high school student. I mean, they played 6 games, and then, you know, the whole school season's over. So.
No, it's crazy.
But man, take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Thank you for doing this, and we'll stay in touch. But I'm grateful, and God bless you, man.
All right, back at you, man.
Thank you.